Guys, it's Stuart from Twisted Core with another CSS tutorial. Today's example is a fixed landing page that is fully interactive, yet allows content to come up on top of it as the user scrolls down the page. The download for this project with all the code is in the description, so you can download that and tinker with it right away. If you want a bit more explanation into how this works and how the code all comes together to make this effect, stay tuned. Okay, so on the HTML side of things, this site is pretty basic. We've only got 20 lines roughly of code here. We've only got two actual divs with content in them. So the first div is Twisted FLP, and it contains your main landing page. For example, the welcome home header that we had at the top and the subheader, and possibly maybe a down arrow for people who don't really know what to do when they see a landing page like that. Something to give them a hint to go down. I use that on a lot of web pages, possibly with an animated effect, makes it quite nice, quite an eye-catching thing for people to see when they come to your website in the first place. And this part here, with the class Twisted Content, that just is going to be the rest of your website in different card sections, of course. So this is going to be the bit that comes up over your landing page when they scroll down, and it's going to contain all the content you want them to see below the fold. Jumping over to the CSS file, it's once again pretty basic, roughly 40 lines of code to make this work. The first three are just a simple reset box sizing border box, giving it a sans serif font and putting everything in the center. That's obviously not essential for this, but it's the way I like to start a good project. The body class, we're using a background image. The background is from unsplash.com. It's a very nice starry night sort of effect going on. The background size is set to cover. That's a new attribute with CSS3, and it makes the background fit to the web page. It fits the size perfectly. And background attachment, another new addition with CSS3, it's fixed. So that means that the background doesn't move as the page scrolls. It would ruin the illusion that everything was fixed. Overflow X is a good thing to add, because if your content starts to overflow to the right hand side of the screen for various positions, it can look pretty ridiculous with scroll bars along the bottom. It's a nice thing I like to add. And margin 0, so that when your card comes up over the top of the page, it isn't boxed in by a small border from the body. You'll see what I mean if you don't include it in the project, but honestly just keep it in, it makes things a lot more simple. So for Twisted FLP, we've got a few classes here. Color white obviously isn't necessary, but that's just what I'm using for the color. It works with the background quite well. And this is obviously the fixed landing part, the bit that stays stationary. So the most important attribute is position fixed. And this means that no matter what the user does when they're scrolling, is this part of the document will always stay very much stationary where it stands, and it won't move. It won't be affected by any other content on the screen. We've also set its margin top to -100 view height. This is because it's fixed. It doesn't mean that no content will affect it at all. It just means that it'll stay in the same place regardless. This means that when you've got something like a content on top of it, Twisted Content, what happens is, without the margin top, it overlays on top of it and you can't see Twisted FLP at all. You wouldn't think this was a problem, but it is. When you remove these, you can't see the landing page at all. It is blocked out by the content, despite the fact that the content isn't actually positioned on top of it. So we have also set its width to 100% so that we can have a nice text align. And I've set the Z index to -1. This is so that when Twisted Content goes on top of it, and because this is position fixed, obviously it's just sitting in the same place, it's actually on the same layer as Twisted Content is, as the browser sees it. So when we set Z index to 1, it makes sure that the landing page is positioned behind the content. If it was positioned on the same layer, we would see an overlap of the two slides as they go up and down on top of each other. Twisted Content, we give it a margin top of 100 view height. This makes sure it's out of the viewpoint when we're on the landing page, and it's also just immediately below the fold. There's no like large gap between, or it's a little bit overlapping. It's perfectly positioned underneath it. This is a more modern attribute, and it's only supported on the last couple of recent versions of Google Chrome and Firefox, Safari, etc. With the WebKit engine. And if you don't want to use view height, you might be able to get away with using percentage, or sort of maybe guessing a pixel count with different media queries, but that's up to you. I'll give it a padding of 20 pixels just for the text inside it. With the 100%, very important, so that it gives a sort of full page effect as you scroll up. The card will be expanded across the whole page and there won't be any gaps at the side. Giving it a background color of white, just to contrast with the dark background, and the height's not important, that's just so we can see the effect going on. Yep, I've given the text sizes, much bigger fonts because it's meant to grab your attention. But that's it for the code. This project in general is a very simple one, easy to implement on your own site, shouldn't require too much reworking of your own code. So hopefully with your next project you'll be able to have a nice, beautiful fixed landing page. Okay guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this from Twisted Core, please get subscribed.